Hello, welcome to the Group Management Basics Training. My name is Anthony Odell, Recreation Assistant in charge of Pan American Park. Today's training will be brought to you by Jessica Ramirez, Site Director at Somerset, Ruby Castro, Site Director at Whaley Park, DJ Albarian, Site Director at Pan American Park. Today's overview will include understand basic principles of leading activities, strategies for supervising small and large groups, attention getters, and transition games. I'd like to turn over the training now to Jessica.
So the first step on getting ready to lead your first activity, so the first basic principle is setting up before camp. That being said, prepping for your day, having supplies ready, and setting up your space. What do I mean by this? By prepping your day, making sure that you're speaking to your lead staff or your camp director, assistant director, and making sure that you are aware as a rec leader on what the activities are going to be for that day, whether it's prepping for a game or prepping for a craft that goes along to having all of your supplies ready to go. If you're running a 14 camp participant group, then you better make sure that all of their 14 cubbies all have color pencils, markers, scissors, glue sticks, or whatever other supplies that you're going to need for that day. Also setting up your space in advance. In the summer, since you guys are going to be outside or you guys are going to be inside, if you guys are going to be outside, summer, we're also going to have a lot of patrons coming by and stopping by for the park. They're going to want to have a picnic or something like that. So making sure that you're setting up for sharks and minnows, or you're setting up for noodle tag, or whatever activity that you guys are going to be doing for that day, so you guys won't have to worry about removing a family if they're sitting out on the grass site, or making sure that the grass is adequate enough for you guys to be running a game. You don't want to see any potholes, you don't want to see any little puddles of mud or something like that, because that does happen. Also in the summer, making sure that the trees, if you guys are going to be near trees, does the branches look safe enough? Because usually in the summer, because of the heat, the branches kind of like fall over, and you don't want to see that happening during your programming hours as well. Okay. Also communicating your plan with your staff. So this should be something that your lead staff or your director should be assisting to you guys in advance. So if you guys are coming in before you guys are going to set up a certain game or do a certain activity, make sure that you're aware that you're communicating what your plan is. If you guys have to readjust, if you guys have to be flexible, if you guys have to make sure that if you guys don't have a specific ingredient for that day, making, like, for example, if you guys are making slime, making sure that you guys have all of that ready to go and we're all on the same page. Because as a director, I'm not always going to be there on time, or I'm not always going to be there throughout the day. So making sure that everyone in your group, as a staff, everyone from your staff knows what your plan is. In addition to that, making sure that everything is executed before the activity is ready to start. Like that, you'll have your easy transitions, you'll have your easy communication, and it's just like, hey, Mr. Anthony, I'm going to need you to do this. Mr. Anthony's going to be aware of what he needs to do, and everything is done like 7 steps in advance, just to make sure that everything runs smoothly. Next up is learning the 5 C's of effective behavior and management. I really want you guys to pay really close attention to this, because these 5 C's will be your core concept on behavior management. The first C is caring. They need to know that you care before they will care. So as kids, they're gonna notice when a staff member does not care while being there. What do I mean by not caring? Being on your phone as a new staff, not engaging with your kids. I've seen it firsthand, and that's when you guys start having kids start having behavior issues during your campsite, and it becomes a lot more difficult as a camp leader, because now not only are you worrying about how smoothly your summers were going, but also you're gonna have to worry about these campers that feel like you don't care about them. As a rec leader, these kids come to our program to be away from home, to be away from the stresses that they're going through at home. Some kids on their own are struggling more than we are, and we have to make sure that we're being great mentors for them and showing that they care, because the more that they come to our program, the more happy they'll be, and that makes us as rec leaders happy to see them come to our program. The next C is being consistent. How consistent are you being with all of your patrons? Be consistent with each other and be consistent with your patrons. By each other, I mean being consistent with your staff as well. Making sure that you're not just asking one specific person what they need. If you see another staff is struggling, making sure that if you guys have 3 staff, 4 staff, 5 staff, if anything, we have 8 or 9 staff like that, because it does get really, really difficult. We want to make sure that we're always being consistent with each other in communication, on having each other's back, as well as your patrons, not just only having that one favorite kid that you've known for so many years or something like that. Making sure that even the new kids that are coming in, we're showing that same care, we're showing that same energy to them as well. The next C, which I believe is the most important in my opinion, is communication. Making sure that everyone is involved and looked into, meaning coworkers, parents, grandparents, any guardians that that are picking up your patrons at the end of the day or dropping off your patrons in the beginning of the morning, making sure that everyone is aware of what is going on. Like I said previously, as a director, I'm not always going to be there. I have to make sure that everyone is on their toes, and making sure that everyone, even though when I'm not there, is following, the rules and all of the protocols. So when I leave, I have to make sure that if little Bobby's being a little difficult throughout the time that I'm there, when my assistant director comes in and Bobby's still there, I have to make sure that I let my assistant director know, hey, you know what? Assistant director, little Bobby was having a difficult day today. These are the steps that I took. If he continues, please make sure that you communicate to the parents and let know that we're trying to execute a better plan for him for the next day. Making sure the same thing, that we're all communicating with the parents. After you're done speaking to the parent, let them know, like, hey, this is what we worked on today. Maybe they will help their kids when they go home and remind them as well, like, hey, remember that Ms. Jessica said that you guys need to practice in being in your seat today. So they're going to go ahead and take that at home, and they'll practice that at home as well. So the next day when they come in, they're already better at for example, staying in their seat. I've seen it myself, and at the end of the day, the parents are going to appreciate that we're communicating these things to them, because like that, they know that we're caring and that we're paying attention to their kids while they're going to be in our program with us. The next C is being clear, making sure that everyone understands the rules and why they're in place. So during summer, we're still following the COVID protocols. Regardless of what goes on after June 15th, there might be some different changes, but COVID protocols are still in play at the moment, okay? So what does that mean? Hand sanitizing, washing hands, making sure that the kids are wearing their masks, making sure that the kids are still 6 feet apart. Why do we do this? To keep them safe. So making sure that they understand why these rules are in place. Why do you guys explain the rules in the beginning of when you guys are doing a game? To making sure that the game is fair and making sure that everyone is being safe and having fun at the same time. The kids' safety is our number one priority over everything. So we have to make sure that we're explaining these rules, and we're also explaining these expectations so they can know what they need to do in order to continue to play these certain games. The last C is create. Always work to create an atmosphere of respect and promote safe play. This means making sure that this one game that that everyone loves is not that common game that you guys are always following to, okay? As rec leaders, we have to make sure that we are as unique as possible, but also remembering that we are here to have a safe play. Making sure, like I said, explaining the rules, explaining the expectations, because the safety for everyone is our number one priority as staff members, as patrons, even for the community, we need to make sure that we are always promoting a safe environment for everyone. Okay.
Strategies for supervising small and large groups. I put a coach there because I don't know where you guys are, but for me, I relate well with sporting analogies. And running kids at day camp is a lot like having a team that you coach and having routines and having strategies, just like a coach, so you can know how to go about and how to move around and what works and what doesn't work. We are going to be talking about different routines and different ways you could train your mind to just make it a habit to create a way to run the structure smoothly. For example, this is called the triangle of sight. It's so that you never have a blind spot. If you see that, if two staff are in the corner of your eyes, they could see what's behind you and you could see what's behind them. So that if something were to happen and we had an incident, a child fall, God forbid, kids hitting each other, or situations where we need to really act quick, we would be able to yell out to our staff or run over there and have a guide so that we can help each other out in that aspect. Next, we have this meme. I love if you guys watch The Office. Stanley always struggles to stay awake in meetings. Maybe it's just like you right now. We don't know. But at the same time, as we're talking to you guys, use that idea when you're explaining a game using clear and precise instructions so that you can really emphasize how to play it. Ask yourself if you know, do you understand it? If you can't explain to me, the director or your coworker, are you able to explain it to 4 or 5-year-olds, or not 4-year-olds, but 7 or 8-year-olds? Really try and keep it simple. I like this quote from Albert Einstein that said, if you can't explain it, you don't understand it well enough. And that's half the battle. If the director or assistant director or another counselor provides an idea for a game, make sure you understand it. If you have input on how to adapt it, check with your lead and see if that's okay. But make sure that you are believing in what you are teaching, and make sure you know what you are teaching and that you are keeping it simple so that you could clarify it. Any questions that come about with staff or participants?
So one of the things that we do throughout the day is behavior, managing behavior with the campers all day. It's easy to catch the kids and remind them of the things that they're doing wrong. And that can get tiring on them. So one of the things you can do is catch them being good. Doing this can lead to having them change their behavior, change their mood, puts them in a happier mood. But then at the end of the day, the same thing goes with parents. Parents, sometimes we only talk to parents when their children are misbehaving. So when you see something that they've done good, make sure that you talk to the parents and let them know the good stuff too. The other thing with behavior, we want to make sure that we are setting safe boundaries. If a child is having a difficult time, let them know where they can step aside, take a few minutes, to get their composure together. And then the other thing we need to do is validate their feelings. So, part of their behavior is you're going to see them upset, you're going to see them angry, you're going to see them frustrated or annoyed. Let them know that it's okay to feel this way, acknowledge their feelings, and then let them know what's a way they can, what's a good way for them to express these feelings. The other thing that's going to happen is your day is not going to go according to how you planned it. So one of the things you need to be able to do and be ready to do is change. Change is going to be a big part of your day. You might think you're going to be doing capture the flag, but you get a heat advisory. You can't play capture the flag because it's way too hot. So you have to be ready to change. It's not always going to be perfect. Be ready to modify your plans, your games, and this just goes for the kids that you have. You might have 5-year-olds that can't play a certain game, or you might have a game that is too simple for your 12-year-old. So you've got to be able to adapt the rules and change the game if it's not appropriate. If you only have 4 kids, you can't really play capture the flag. So you got to be ready to change them. Have a plan A, a plan B, and then also, at the end of the game, you could also ask your participants, hey, we just played this game. What did you like about it? What do you think we can change about it? But to add to that, implement that. Play the way they suggested. That way you're hearing them and the children will buy into what you're doing, and then you'll get better participation and the kids will feel included. There's more than one way to line up. I call it controlled movement. What does that mean? That means you don't say, okay, everyone line up, because you're going to get a ton of kids that try to go to the front of the line. So make it fun, and especially during these difficult times of COVID, you want to make sure you're keeping your participants at a distance. So make a fun game out of it. You can do something along the lines of, if you're wearing a blue shirt, look at your participants. If you know there's only one child wearing a blue shirt, then you say, okay, if you're wearing a blue shirt, you may line up. If you have a hat, you may line up. You could do it with things that they like. If you have a cat, you may line up. Lots of different ways you can do it. Those are some examples, but definitely keep it fun and keep it safe. And again, try to involve the kids. Like, how do we line up the next time? Who has an idea? And then implement it.
Up next is learning how to redirect participants throughout the summer. What does this mean? By redirecting participants, this means that if you guys ever get a challenging participant or participants, more than one, the best way to redirect participants is getting them involved in a way where you can have them close to you, where you're keeping an eye on them, but also making sure that they're not doing whatever they did to get in trouble or that they weren't supposed to be doing. It gets them away from that, and you're redirecting them into a safer habit, and then like that you're able to have this participant or participants be involved instead of sitting down for like 5 or 10 minutes in timeout or during a cooling session. That's what we call it right now. So what are some ways that you can redirect a participant? Ask them to help. If you know that they're struggling staying in their seat and you know that you have to set up 28 trays for craft time, get them up from their seat and then have them come and help you inside the activity room so you can start prepping these crafts. It's going to be an easier transition for you as a director or as a lead staff or a rec staff that are doing these activities. It's going to make your job a little bit easier, because then like that, instead of worrying about prepping 28 trays and watching this kid that's being a little difficult, now you're going to have one, that child with you helping you instead. And then like that, you're able to plan and execute that if you can also use them as a ref. If if you know that a participant, doesn't really like playing noodle tag or is tired of playing noodle tag, and you still want them to get involved instead of sitting down and being by themselves, use them as a ref. Have them stay on the baseline and make sure that that he knows the rules or she knows the rules. And if he catch some other participants cheating or sees some other participants doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, they'll be your extra set of eyes out on the field with you or on the court with you, like that. And they're gonna actually enjoy that more than actually being an actual participant playing the game. That also involves having them keep score. If you have a 12-year-old participant, and I'm gonna take this for example over at my park, I have two 12-year-old participants, and both of them get a little tired of playing charades or get a little tired playing Pictionary or something like that. So because I know that they're older and because I know that they're able to write and draw, certain activities or do certain activities, I'll have, both of them be team captains, and then they can teach the younger kids how to, play a specific game, or I'll have them keep score on the whiteboard or erasing on the whiteboard. Just like that, they'll be my helper. I have them involved, and now I have, my other 10 kids out on the playing the game like that. Another thing that is going to make your guys' life a lot easier as rec leaders, believe me, is attention getters. Transition games and cooldowns. Attention getters can be anything. You guys probably heard some of these before. If you can hear my name, clap once, and then they'll clap. If you can hear my name, clap 2 times. Clap 2 times. I usually like doing a SpongeBob, the SpongeBob one. So who lives in a pineapple under the tree? And then everyone's gonna shout out SpongeBob SquarePants. So when you guys are doing these transition games and these attention getters, it's for you to make sure that everyone is paying attention to you. You are the show. You're running the show when it comes down to leading these games, okay? If you are shy or if you're not as loud as enough, these kids are going to struggle on paying attention to you. So you guys got to make sure that you guys are projecting your voice and being loud and clear so they can understand. Transition games can be anything when you guys are lining up, just like how my coworker Ruby said earlier today, making lineup time, fun, lining up and doing Jeopardy, or lining up and doing trivia, just like that. Hey, if we want to line up first, what's 3 + 5? You'll have like everyone raise their hand, 3 + 5. Or if you have younger kids that are struggling with math, you'll tell them, hey Jackie, what's my name? And then that's for the younger kids so they can learn your name as well. And if they get it right, then they can go line up. Transition time and cooldown games, always give clear instructions to the next activity. So when you guys are getting ready to conclude a specific game or specific activity, while they're finishing up, or once you start having kids finish up doing a certain activity or a certain craft before everyone else, you can start announcing the rules. Hey guys, once you guys are done finishing up your craft, we're gonna start getting ready to line up and wash our hands. Do not get up just yet. I'm gonna have you guys line up once everyone is finishing up their activity, okay? But just letting them know that within maybe 5 or 10 minutes, they better hurry up and they better finish up their craft, because it's almost lunchtime and we have to make sure that we stay on schedule so we can hit all of the activities that are scheduled for that day. The next one is using controlled movement. What does this mean? Making sure that if you have kids lining up, they're going out through the exit zone, and when they're coming back in, they're coming back in through the entrance zone like that. That's going to avoid clashing. That's going to avoid, kids cutting in line. That's going to avoid all of these participants just rambling into the door. At Somerset, for example, I only have 1 bathroom and 2 sinks. So I have to make sure that I specifically let the kids know which way they need to go, so we won't have any type of clashing like that. We avoid injuries. We avoid, we avoid not following the COVID protocols, because remember, we have to stay 6 feet apart. We have to make sure that all of the kids are safe, and making sure that they're always making sure to hand wash making sure that they're washing their hands and sanitizing. Next up is use fun ways to get campers to line up. Just like how Miss Ruby said earlier today, do trivia, do quick math problems while they're lining up, do knock jokes or riddles. My kids absolutely love that. They love thinking quick on their feet. Every park is different, so whatever way that you can figure out on having them line up is always going to be the easiest way, because then like that you avoid the clump, you avoid the clashing and the always like, oh, why do they always have to go first or something like that. Okay. Up next is making sure that the rules are simple and clear. Just like the expectations, you have to make sure that all of these rules are clear. You want to make sure that everything that you're saying, not only you understand it, but your staff understands it. Because then like that, as a director, I always have to make sure that my staff knows what specific crafts I want, when do I specifically need it, and how many do I need. Like that, they're on it and they're ready to go by the time that date comes. I don't really have to worry about coming in at 2:30 or coming in at 6 a.m. in the morning when the summer hits and not have the specific craft done. Okay, we have to make sure that everything is clear and everything is simple for the upcoming kids that are coming in and the staff that are coming in as well. Expectations. I kind of went a little bit of ahead. When that first day of summer comes, it is your job as rec leaders to examine all of your kids that are coming in, because although some of our kids had already been with us before, we're going to have brand new kids as well. And we have to make sure that we're setting these expectations for their behavior for the entire summer, whether they're only here for a week. Some might be here for a week, others might be with you for the whole 10 weeks. And we have to make sure that we're setting these expectations. So when new kids come in, they know what to expect and parents know what to expect when they get here. Behavior wise, we have the 3 strike inside our parent handbook. So if there's ever issues with behavior, parents know on the little parent handbook for day camp what our tolerance level is. Okay. Up next is using campers with challenging behavior to help you out. This goes back to redirecting them, making sure that instead of having them sit down for 5 to 10 minutes doing nothing and being bored, we have them instead helping you out. Because then later you don't want little Jimmy to go back home. Jimmy's mom is going to ask them like, hey, what'd you do today? Well, I got in trouble and I had to sit down for 5-10 minutes. Now you have Jimmy's mom coming at you later that day after at pickup, and they're going to be upset like, why is my son telling me that he's sitting down for 10 minutes and doing nothing? Okay, so you don't want to worry about that. You want to make sure that all of your kids are involved, they learn from their mistakes, and even if it is having to help you, there's always something to do at the park. So if you always need them to make sure that they're packing, making sure that they're packing up all of their lunch bags, making sure that they're picking up all of their trash. If you see that there's trash on the floor and you're having this difficult child or this challenging child with you, then making sure that they know like, hey, let me put some gloves on you, help me out on cleaning this trash, and maybe I can let you play this game. But you got to make sure that you pick up 20 pieces of trash or something like that. Over at Somerset, I do that as often as I can, because since I'm an outdoor program, these kids think it's easy for just letting their trash sit on top of their tables and then the wind just kind of takes their trash. So I always make sure to let them know like, hey, if I find another piece of trash on the floor, we're all going to put on gloves and we're all just going to go pick up, do a trash pickup, and you can start making it challenging. Okay. Up next is don't forget to take breaks when planning high activity games. In the summer, we are going to have heat advisories. I can vouch for that myself. Like I said, I'm an outdoor program the entire summer. So if you know that it's going to be hot that day and you already ran dodgeball, you already ran Sharks and Minnows, and later that day you're going to run noodle tag, make sure that you're switching with your staff. Why? You don't want to burn yourself out. And also you don't want to be so tired that the next day you're going to get sick. Trust me, it has happened at my park. I got sick myself one time because I didn't know how to time myself. I like being involved and I'm a very energetic person. My coworkers can vouch for me on that as well. So they know that Jessica's going to be out there until she gets tired. But I have to remember that I need to take care of myself as well. So if I know that DJ's running noodle tag, I have to make sure that he takes a break, and then Ruby's gonna hop on and she's gonna do, the next high intensity game. Okay, you guys got to make sure you guys are drinking water. You guys got to make sure that you guys are getting your shade, and you guys got to make sure that if you know it's too hot for you, I don't think it's a good idea to run that game for your kids when it's like 90 degrees outside and you've already been doing, 2 high intensity games. Make sure to take your breaks, okay? Lastly, give a warning time for closing out an activity. I always have timers set for my kids. I think it would be a very good idea to let your staff know, or to ask your staff, like, what's my time limit on this? And as a rec leader, you have to make sure that you stay within your limit to stay on track so routines won't get broken. Yes, it's understandable. There's always the what ifs. What if I don't have enough equipment? What if I don't have enough kids? That's where, as rec leaders, we have to be as flexible as possible, and we have to make sure that although we can't do that certain activity that one day, coming back to it during that week to make sure that we do that activity so we can hit everything that we have planned out for that week, okay? Also, other ideas as attention getters, a lot of you guys probably know them. I like to call them TikTok songs. So any TikTok song that is a clean song that's easy to remember. One of my favorite ones from TikTok is a Sweet Caroline, and then the kids always come up and they're always like bum bum bum. So that's another good one. These are all easy attention getters that you guys can use. You guys can also create your own. So your directors are really going to be aware of all of these. So if you can't think of one that fits for you, there's going to be perfect ones for you to figure out, okay?
So here's some more attention getters you can practice with your group. All right, all right.
Okay.
Hold up.
Wait a minute.
1, 2, 3.
Eyes on me.
Zip it, lock it.
Keep it in your pocket.
So like Jessica said earlier, go to TikTok. You will see a lot of different attention getters you can look up. Teachers love to put these up. Just keep them clean. YouTube, also another great resource. Look under attention getters. Have fun with them. Have the kids help you make up one. If they help you, they're invested, and it will make your day a lot more fun. The kids will have fun. So have fun with your attention getters.
Lastly, we're going to have some breakout sessions. So throughout, as you guys are watching the video, whether you're watching them by yourself or you're watching them with a group, take a second, pause throughout the breakout sessions, and then I'm going to be answering them with you guys. So just make sure that you guys have something similar with your answers. So the first question for the breakout session is, if there's a heat advisory, how would you entertain a group of 10 to 20 campers with high intensity games, and how would you adapt to these games? So go ahead and take a second, and then we're going to go ahead and answer it together. So if you guys got anything for this, I would, as a rec leader myself, if I know that there's going to be a heat advisory even before the heat advisory even goes out, your supervisors or your camp directors or your assistant directors will be notified by your supervisor or by your rec assistant. They'll let you know ahead of time. So if you know that you're going to be playing a high intensity game such as Mario Balloon Pop or Fuse Hockey or something like that, make sure that you guys have a backup plan for that day and try to avoid having high intensity games. So what does that mean? Using those hip pocket games. If you guys didn't plan for Jeopardy, but you know it's going to be hot, have your support staff and start planning for Jeopardy. If you guys really wanted to do fuse beats for that day, let's go ahead and pull out some fuse beats and we'll all do fuse beats together. Something that I like doing is, if I know that I have a weekly theme of Marvel that week, I'll be at ahead of myself, and I'll have little stencils out of Marvel characters for them to follow, to make these specific fuse beats for the week of that theme, okay? Another thing is, how would you also adapt those high intensity games if you still want to play these games? Something is making sure that you guys are taking water breaks every 10 minutes while you guys are scheduled to be playing this game, or even before that. Making sure that where you guys are setting up to play, try and stay in the shaded areas if you guys have a shaded area. And then if you absolutely don't have any of these options, just being flexible and being on your toes and making sure that you guys have that second or third option to do for that day is always the best, okay? The next question for the breakout session, take a second, go ahead and answer this on your own, and then I'll go ahead and answer it with you guys as well, okay? So the second question for this breakout session is, what if you had a 12-year-old participant with a 7-year-old participant, and your game is Noodle Tag? How would you adapt to this game? So if you guys don't know, Noodle Tag is a very high intensity game. The kids are running around with pool noodles, and the point of the game is to tag them out. And if they get tagged out, then they'll have to either take a knee, or they have to line up and they have to wait until the game is completely over to go back in. So at my park, I'm a one group camp, meaning that I have 14 participants, and I literally have 14 participants ranging from the ages of 5 all the way to 12 years old. So this is actually very common at my park. What I do, and what I let my staff know, that if I have a 7-year-old and she's not very that athletic or something like that, she's more of the artsy kind, I like to pair them up with the 12-year-old. So instead of having one person being it, I'll have the 7-year-old and I'll have the 12-year-old, and then like that they have to work as a team to tag these other kids out. Something that I also like doing is, for the 7-year-old, instead, if I know that she absolutely doesn't like this game, then I'll have her be my second set of eyes out on the field with me. So she'll keep an eye out, and she'll let me know if little Bobby is cheating, or she'll let me know that, like, hey, maybe we should do this instead. And then I'll take what she tells me, and then I'll be able to implement it into the game. So always know that there's different ways. And then if you absolutely can't figure something out with the 7 and 12-year-old, maybe you can even end up changing the game if it's possible, but you would want to leave that to your last resort. Try and have all of the kids be involved as best as you can, either by implementing them into your own team, you helping out the 7-year-old, or you being that challenging staff to going against the 12-year-old, just so it can be fun and challenging as well, okay? The last breakout session question is, it's 9:30 and you have 7 kids. How would you adapt your game? The original game is Capture the Flag, plus you have 2 brothers who are known to misbehave. Take a quick second, and then I'll go ahead and give you guys my answer as well, okay? So our last breakout session question is, it's 9:30 a.m. and you have 7 kids. How would you adapt your game? Your original game is supposed to be Capture the Flag, plus 2 of the 7 kids that are there are brothers, and they're known to misbehave. Go ahead and take a second, figure out what your answer is, and then I'll go ahead and answer it for you guys. If you guys have other ideas, you guys can go ahead and share it with whoever you guys are with while watching this video. So as a rec leader, you want to make sure that we're doing everything that is on our schedule that was set by our directors or assistant directors. We want to make sure that we stay on schedule. But sometimes this is going to happen. Sometimes you're not always going to have your 14 kids, your 28 kids at 9:30 in the morning, especially if this game is, a Monday morning. Monday mornings, I'm not even fully there sometimes too. So if my original game is supposed to be Capture the Flag at 9, but I don't have my kids, that's where, as rec leaders, we have to be flexible, and we have to figure out other alternatives to do for that hour. And then later coming back to that game when we do have, you know, the majority of our participants there. For capture the flag, it's always best recommended that you always have, you know, a good amount of kids to do this game, just simply because it's a lot of it's like a very teamwork based game that you have to have even teams on both ends of the team. Okay. For these two brothers that I know that are misbehaving, I would, if it comes down to me playing this game later, I would have those games on those kids on two separate teams, and then obviously I'll have them not kind of like tag each other out, but I'll have them paired up with someone else instead. So meaning that, like, if I know that I'm one of the misbehaving brothers, my director or my camp leader will let me know that I have to, instead of going over and getting my own sibling out, I have to aim for someone else. And then if I do have to go end up going against my sibling, that would be kind of like my last resort type. So you have to communicate and you have to let your kids know when they're playing this game, who they're going for. Make it challenging for them if we know that they're misbehaving because they're bored playing this game, which most likely that's the reason why. Make it challenging for them and then make it fun for them at the end. Like I said, always have your backup plan. Although if backup plan A doesn't work, then you have B, C, D, E, all the way to Z. And then if you have to go to, you know, sub A, sub B, sub C, which it may happen. Don't get me wrong. It will be something that you guys have to plan for, but that's where you guys have to remember to be communicating with your staff to making sure if this doesn't work, what are my alternatives? Be creative, be unique, be different. Ask your participants as well, like, hey, what do you guys want to do? What activity? We can't play this activity right now, but what should we do during the meantime while we get more kids right now? And 99.9% of the time, you're gonna get an idea or something from these kids. Okay, so always reach out. Again, my name's Jessica. We also have Ruby, DJ, and Anthony. I'm over at Somerset, Ruby's over at Whaley, DJ's at Pan Am, and then we also have our supervisor, Anthony Odell, as well, that I'm going to turn this over to him now. Remember that you guys have a support team. We're all wearing the same logo. We're all representing the same department. Make sure that you guys reach out to any of us. We're always here to help, and that's why we're here for you guys, if you guys have any questions, okay?
I would like to give thanks to Jessica, Ruby, and DJ for being part of our group management basics training. And when I say basics, I want to let you guys all know from the city of Long Beach, congratulations. You're starting out new. There might be a lot of terminology used in today's training that you might not understand completely yet. What we do ask is that you do show up with a positive attitude, and you heard the word team a lot. Rely on your team. Rely on another rec assistant, a supervisor, a site director, and or maybe someone else new coming in or someone with a little more experience. Everyone has a question to ask, and only a bad question doesn't get asked. So please ask anything that might be on your mind so somebody can give you an answer so you can be confident in what you're doing at all times. Okay, once again, thank you for joining us today. Please, there's a QR code. Please do the evaluation so we can get some feedback, and we appreciate you. Thank you very much.